The views and opinions expressed by participants in the following public affairs program do not necessarily reflect the position or beliefs of WDEF or its staff.
This is Point of View, celebrating a world record-breaking 62 years of quality public affairs programs from the studios of WDEF News 12, Chattanooga.
Hello, I'm Maurice Lewis, and thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Point of View. The new resident in the White House, he's been there approximately 60 days. He has a lot of terms, a lot of names. Mr. President, the Resident, the Donald. He's many things to many people, and he's also what some people would call a lightning rod, because the country is still pretty divided over what the Electoral College did and what the people popularly voted for. So what has that done? Well, it's caused a lot of people to not go asleep at the switch and not go away. In fact, they are starting to form, and they're getting active, and they're becoming more vocal. In fact, there are 75 different organizations and groups that have formed in the United States just since Trump's election to counter what they perceive to be his misdirection of his administration. We'll take a look at how they're being formed and how they're operating, and then we'll come back and I'll introduce to you my studio guest today.
If you're like me, you've been pretty freaked out about Trump and his agenda. Good news. Smart people with tons of experience in how politics really work have put together a practical guide on how to make Congress listen to us that you can find at indivisibleguide.com. Members of Congress only care about their constituents, and that means you. You will have 3 simple targets: your 2 U.S. senators and your representative. You will let them know how you feel about every important issue that comes up. But a warning, it's going to require a little more than just calls and petitions. This all begins when you join a local group or start your own. Once you're part of a team, there are 4 simple tactics to engage in. Town halls. Members of Congress will hold them. You just have to show up and use the public comment sections to voice your opinion. Public events. Your members of Congress will be out there cutting ribbons and kissing babies. You need to be there asking the smart questions and holding them accountable to issues they are on the wrong side of, or thanking them for being on the right side in hard times. Office visits. Members of Congress take meetings, schedule one, or just show up and bring some friends. Let them know you care, you vote, and you are watching them. Call them. Work with local groups to participate in mass call days so your members of Congress can't ignore their constant ringing phones and full voicemail boxes. Over 500,000 individuals have already downloaded the guide. Over 100,000 people have signed up in every congressional district in the country, and over 3,000 groups have registered in every state in the nation.
That's just a thumbnail of how one group is doing it, but there are a lot of groups doing different things. We'd like to welcome 3 people here with different opinions, or the same opinions with different outcomes. First of all, let's welcome Karen Callahan. Excuse me. Let me get that right. Karen Claypool.
Good afternoon.
You're going to hold my feet to the fire. I blew that.
Oh, I am.
You weren't going to say a word, but you are one of the co-founders of the local Indivisible movement.
I'm one of the co-founders of one of the local Indivisible movements. There are a number of them in the Chattanooga area.
Bryce Current, thank you very much for being here with us today. And
Thank you for inviting
come from a biblical perspective, so to speak.
Well, I believe in inclusion. I believe in tolerance. I believe that God welcomes all people. And from that perspective, I think movements like this are holding the administration's feet to the fire.
You're the pastoral associate over at the Pilgrim Congregational Church.
Yes, I'm one of 3 pastoral associates. My area of expertise is community engagement.
Okay. A registered voter is a very important product. Yes. We are all registered voters, but April Sinclair, that's why you're here today, because you're a registered voter. I want to start with this Indivisible group. Why are you guys doing this here locally?
After the election, I was ready to move out of the country. And I talked with a friend of mine, and she said, Karen, you can't move out. We need you too badly. And I said, if I stay in the country, I want to make sure I'm making a significant difference and fighting the agenda of Donald Trump. So together we decided to start this, and the indivisible format seemed like something that we could get behind and believe in. There are over 7,000 indivisible groups now across the country, and we're all working for the same goals.
Well, who are you mad at?
I think it's a cross between being upset at what the administration is doing and wanting the whole administration accountable for the considerable missteps. And from my perspective, the ways administration is hurting people, healthcare being an example. You know, when you kick people off of healthcare just because you move the numbers around, that's really unfortunate. When we have healthcare at present that includes 20 million people. So why are we excluding people? Why are we hurting people who need health care?
Respectfully, I need to push back on that because this is now just day 50 or so, and you just got these health insurance facts. So what were you disappointed at in the beginning of his administration that got you motivated?
Well, let's look at the appointments to the various cabinet positions. One of the things that Trump said that he was going to drain the swamp, it looked more like he fed the alligators in the swamp by the appointments to the various cabinet positions. Many of them are very unqualified, and others have an agenda which I think is counterproductive to the cabinet position that they're now being appointed to. So from that perspective, just out of the gate, there was a lot to be upset about.
A lot of the organizations that are pushing back against the Trump administration would be considered liberal, leftist, or progressive. Why aren't you mad at the Democratic Party for losing the election?
Well, we didn't lose the popular vote.
Well, but you lost. This guy's president, so that is a fact.
He is, and we don't know what influence Russia may have had on that. I suspect it's considerable, to be honest with you. I think the Democratic Party could have been better organized, could have done some things differently. You asked whom we're mad at. I'm upset in part with evangelicals. And I say that as someone who grew up in an evangelical family. Mm-hmm. I consider myself a Christian, a liberal Christian, but evangelicals, I think, have been very hypocritical in their embracing of Donald Trump.
It's as if Donald Trump said, taking all the evangelicals to the highest pinnacle of the continental U.S. and said, I will give you all this if you bow down and worship me. And they said, sure.
But now, on the other side of that, there are people who may have voted for a Democrat at one point, perhaps, and you see things differently. From your perspective, what are you looking at and how are you feeling about this?
Just to give you a little bit of background, I didn't want to have anything to do, from personal experience in my life, some things that I had gone through, I didn't want to have anything to do with anything political. The first time I voted was in the first Obama election. Did not really get into it, couldn't tell you anything specific about really anything political, and this time I felt like I did not like the way that our nation was divided. I didn't like the way that the government was all about themselves and me, how much money can I get, how much money can I make, what can I do for myself. I didn't like the way that it was going, and so I felt like it was very important for me to stand up and say something. At first, when Trump was running for president, I jumped in with everybody else. What is he doing? How could he, he's a clown. He could, I did the same thing everybody else did. And then I stopped and I said, my mom always taught me to, you can be anything you want to be. So he wants to be on TV, great. He wants to be a president, go for it. Everybody should have that chance. Everybody should have that right. That's what America is about, is to go for what you want, to go for your dream. But
are you pleased with what he's doing at this point?
I think
that's a two-part question.
A lot of things it's too early to tell. I think a lot of people doesn't matter what he does, it's never going to be good enough.
So when you hear things like that, there are 75 different groups around the country, including here in Chattanooga, there are multiples that are against what he stands for and his administration stand for. As a person on the sidelines, how do you feel about that?
I mean, they have every right to. Everybody, you know, has a right to voice their own opinion. I think a lot of them are mad because they lost, period, that's it. And I've known people, not just in groups, just individually through Facebook and stuff, they're just mad just to be mad. They lost, they don't like it, and they're going to do whatever they can to make it go down. I feel like that's shooting yourself in the foot to ask a president to you know,
Please.
be unsuccessful.
I don't know of anybody who's mad just because we lost. I believe we are very upset because of the Trump agenda. I watch the news every day, and it seems when I think it couldn't be any worse, it becomes worse. I am appalled, and I think many of us are appalled by his cabinet choices. We're appalled by the things he's saying. We're appalled by his stance. We're appalled. Let's just take a few examples. We are appalled that he is claiming that Obama wiretapped Trump Towers with no evidence. If there were evidence, he would say it.
Well,
We are appalled. We're appalled by the appointment of Betsy DeVos, who has not had anything to do with public education, and now she's our Secretary of Education. We're appalled that Tom Price has on several occasions.
Okay, you've got a long list of things.
A long
Now,
list. We're mad at specific
how are you going to
things he's
speak to
done.
people to motivate them to come out to do something about it? I mean, to be angry, I mean, I scream and shout at the television just
Oh, I
like
do that
all
too.
of you do. But now, what's the message that's going to motivate people to come out and vote?
It's been interesting that watching people say that they want to be involved somehow, that they want to get engaged in making society better by opposing some of Trump's policies. You know, it's hard when you get into the personality aspect. It's a little more direct when you say the immigration policy of
We have less than a
excluding
minute.
people.
We have less than a minute.
Okay, so when you exclude people based on you know, ethnicity, based on race, based on country of origin, based on sexual orientation,
But real briefly,
that's a
let me
challenge.
just ask you, as a man of the cloth, would you pray for President Trump's success?
I pray for President Trump every day. I pray for the administration every day. I feel compelled to pray because of the things that I see that goes on.
Karen Callahan, Claypool. I will get it right. You know, I've been knowing you for a couple of years, and all of a sudden here I'm on television with my dear friend. I apologize for that, obviously. But now, if you want people
I'll
to
let
come
you
out,
make it up to me, Maurice.
I'm sure you will, and I'll do that too. But if for people to come out in order to be able to show their level of satisfaction or dissatisfaction, what are you doing and when? Real quick.
We just let people know. We send out emails, and people have come and they've said, I'm appalled. What can I do?
Is there any type of rally or an event that will be happening soon?
Our particular group is staging a rally on April the 18th. That's during the long recess.
Okay.
And we want to have a number of people out to go to the offices of our members of Congress.
It'll be during the noon hour.
Okay, so people can come up from work. Looking at all of this, what's your optimistic or non-optimistic view?
I think we should give him a chance. And I think that we should see what he can do, at least give him the first 100 days. I mean, see what he can do for us, what he can do for everybody. I think where the Democrats went wrong is the fact that Trump was like, I want to give this back to the people. That's what we wanted to hear. He told us what we wanted to hear. I want to see if he's going to do that, and I think we should hold him to it.
Real
I
quick.
think in the first 60 days, he's already screwed up a number of things.
Yes, unfortunately
and it's
so.
appalling. I don't want to give him 40 more days before I speak out and say things.
Right.
So many of his decisions have been completely appalling. And look at the people who were turned away because of the immigration ban, that were sent back to other countries or were not let back into the U.S.
Oh, they weren't turned away. That's an alt fact.
And that's not, it's a temporary thing. It's not an all the time thing. I mean, you don't open the
Right.
doors and allow everybody in the neighborhood to come in and
Excuse me,
steal
there
what
were-
you have.
there
Here's
were
what we have to
people-
do. Here's what we have to do. Karen, Bryce, April, we have to shut it down for right now. We've got to wrap this up. I know we're just getting ready, getting into the heat of this. You have to come back.
I can do that.
You have to come back, okay? Listen, this is Point of View. There is a lot that will be happening here. We've got a barn burner of a runoff election that's happening for District 9 of the City Council. My co-host, Nara Cancel, will join me with the two candidates, one young, one rookie, okay, and one seasoned veteran. I'm going to leave it at that. And also, another person, a community activist, will join us when this edition of Point of View continues.
Welcome back to Point of View. I'm Nayada Cancel, joining Mr. Maurice Lewis. Thank you for coming back and tuning back in with us. As we discussed earlier in today, we were talking about politics, and we will continue talking about politics. This time, we're going to bring in it a little bit more local. District 9, we have one of the candidates here and one of the community activists for District 9. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show. First of all, for those viewers that do not know what District 9 is and what all it encompasses, can you tell us about the area, first of all?
Sure. So District 9 encompasses Eastdale, Missionary Ridge, East Chattanooga, Highland Park, Ridgedale, and Glenwood.
And Ms. Coonrod, you are one of the candidates for that district. We did reach out to the standing candidate, and he's not here today. But we also have Mr. Kevin Muhammad as well. Do you live in District 9?
No, ma'am, I do not live in District 9. Okay. I'm a citizen of the city of Chattanooga.
You're a city Chattanooga
right.
resident,
That's
which is
right.
very important, and we'll talk
Absolutely.
to you in a minute. What is your #1 concern for District 9?
So my #1 concern is reducing crime.
Reducing crime. Where do you see it from maybe when you lived there before?
I still live there.
I know, but I mean, from when were you born there? I should probably start by there.
I was born and raised in the community of Eastdale, which is at the time it was District 5, but the rezoning they put us in District 9.
Have you seen through your lifetime a change in crime?
Yes, it's increased.
Significantly?
Significantly.
Does education have anything to do with that?
Absolutely, and the environment and systemic issues.
When you say the environment, what do you mean by that?
So the living conditions, unemployment rates, the infrastructure, all of that plays a part in the crime.
Well, let's just go back. What, in fact, can a city councilor do to reduce crime?
So what the city councilor can do, is such as myself, will speak that into existence. So I would like to, treat crime as a health issue rather than using focused deterrence, because it's not getting to the root cause of the crime, and it's not stopping crime, it's not reducing it. But if we take a holistic approach and address it as a crime issue, then we're talking about healing whole families. Because you can take a kid and you can drill into them all these programs, and then that kid is now saved, but once they return back to the home where a lot of issues are, it's going to cause disruption again.
Just let me push back on that a little bit. Young people know right from wrong. You know it's wrong to break into somebody's house and steal their television, to rob them or steal their car. So what specific can a city councilor do to that individual? Because the family didn't commit the crime. It's the individual that broke society's rules. How do you address that?
Absolutely. Well, see, we say that, Maurice, and we say that, people know and understand what's right from wrong, but when you're not shown a different path to even realize that it's wrong, and all you have is generation before you that's committing the same type crimes and not even realizing that it's wrong, then as a kid, you're looking up to those individuals and saying, I want to be just like them. So in their mind, they're not thinking that it's wrong because it's right, because it's continued to be done throughout the years.
Well, Kevin Muhammad, you deal with a lot of young people.
Yes.
You see them, you minister them in the jails, in the prison. They talk to you before, during, and after. What have you seen any politician do to reduce crime?
Well, if I may quote something from Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King in The Crisis to America's Cities, he said, when sin or crime is committed in darkness, don't look at the one who committed the sin. Look at the one who created the darkness.
So
then
we're
he went
blaming,
on to
who
say,
we're blaming?
well, I'm not blaming anyone.
Okay.
Then he went on to say that it was the white policymakers who created the slums.
Wait a minute, Pookie didn't.
the
It was Pookie that stole my television. It wasn't a white policymaker.
The unemployment, the slums, the ghettos. He said that black people, we commit crimes, but they are derivative crimes that are born
It's the
out of
choices
the
of
larger
people who don't
crime.
have respect
Sure,
for law and order
it's a
that commit
choice,
crimes.
but if you trade
Period.
places, if you trade, I'm a
Okay.
graduate of Baylor School. Okay, I was the only black in my class for 6 years. I'm not proud to have to sit here to say that as a Baylor graduate, I smoked more weed and I drank more liquor and alcohol with rich white people than I did in the hood where I grew up with black boys.
Your choice.
The difference was that their parents had money that could get them out of trouble, that could cover it up, and they had more access to it. Whereas Pookie that you're talking about, who sits under the tree or sits on the school steps, well, the police harasses him and takes him in for a small bag of marijuana.
Don't you think
when
it's
we
all
had
about the
glad
kind of
bags
choices that
marijuana.
people make? And I want to
Sure, it's choices,
Right.
but the choices are being made by many of us, by the policymakers downtown. That's why we need new, young, fresh leadership into office that can change some of the unfair
I
policies
just got one
that
other
are taking
quick
place
follow-up to
downtown.
take it back to here. Blaming the white man for the ills of the inner city is as old as the country. You're a black woman. Your predecessor, if you beat this man, was black. He had opportunities. Now you may have the opportunities.
Absolutely. But the difference between he and I is that he sold us out a number of times, and the facts.
Well, see, now
prove
he's
that.
not here, so
And
you would have
so-
to be very specific, and that's a charge since he's not here. So let's talk
So
about
he
what
can't
you
give a
can
rebuttal.
do.
So I mean, with us, and I know you're a friend of his, and the look on your face indicates that you're upset about
No,
that.
I'm listening.
But-
I'm not here for either party, and I
Yeah,
don't
so-
live in District 9.
But I beg to differ, but anyway, that what we can do as being on a part of the council is that we need to work together and address these issues. We can't keep rubber stamping the mayor's agenda in any kind of way. We have to make sure that the money that's coming in from the Title VI is going directly to those communities who need those funds.
And you know, like, just to be fair, yes, Naira knows Yusef Hakeem, and so do I. We are very busy people. We know a lot of people in our community. They've been on our shows together. So to make an inference, I think it's a little unfair and disingenuous on your part. So I just beg you, don't do that. That's not fair. Well, we're friends with him. We're friends with you because you've been here before.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And we would question him or any other candidate the same,
Same way.
Right.
We have a rule here. We are friends until that red light comes on, and when that red light comes on, we're not friends anymore.
Right, I agree. But
We have to
facial-
ask the questions that every viewer has.
Right.
And one of the questions is, if you aim all of your efforts into the children, what happens to the adolescents or the young adults or even the elderly that are committing the crimes? So you put all your focus on the children. What happens to other people committing crimes?
They're going to continue to commit the crimes. That's why I said we need to address it as a family approach, because you can't just get the kid and you got the parents that's committing crimes too. You got to hit everybody, every generation, or the same thing is going to happen. You got to get the grandmama, the mama, the sister, the brother. You can't just treat the kid, because they're going to go back to that same environment, and it's going to lead to the same outcome.
Other issues that you might have in your district, such as food deserts and such as housing, good housing and respectable housing for the people in your district. How do you feel about that, and what can you do about it as a candidate?
Well, with the food desert, a lot of people use that word because when they're speaking about the urban community, the inner city community, we got a Walmart. So it's right down the road. So it's just a means of having transportation. And transportation in some areas end at 6 o'clock, so you're not able to get those resources, and you don't have those tools to get the food that you need. But things change, because now you can order food online, you can have it delivered. So it's just about getting the information out to the people and educating them on different ways how to get the food to the areas.
Kevin Muhammad, you have spoken up about economic conditions and entrepreneurship. So we have young men and women who've made some bad choices. They've served their time. Now they're back out. It's hard for them to get a job. We only have a minute to go or less. Where are you with Block the Box?
Oh, most definitely I support that. I mean, being an ex-convicted felon myself, so that's something that I was on the front line advocating for and forced, you know, the current administration to do something about that. And they, you know, we voted that to happen, so the city of Chattanooga now can hire people that are convicted felons, and they can work in every capacity with the city of Chattanooga. So most definitely, I hope that every other company would jump on board with the ban the box issue.
Nyara?
You know, one last question is, why do you think that the voter should vote for you versus your opponent?
We're out.
We're out of time, unfortunately. One word about that?
Get out and vote for Coonrod.
Get out and vote for Coonrod.
Or, don't forget, it's a runoff election, so you have two candidates. Even though the other candidate is not here, you still have some choices to make.
Yes, educate yourself on which candidate you would like to vote, but more importantly, get out and vote. And thank you for joining us here on Point of View, and stay tuned for a very exciting episode next week.
Closed captioning provided by the following.
Funding for this program is brought to you by Barnett & Company, specializing in tax-efficient strategies for the preservation and distribution of family wealth, offering continuous investment management with a focus on long-term strategies. Areas of service include investment, estate, education, and retirement planning. Barnett & Company, the power of compound returns over time. More information can be found on the web at barnettandcompany.com.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout.
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Cheers. Take time to be a dad today.